Welcome to the Vince Project, an H-hour production where we help people become more skilled, more competent, and more brave when they're facing the most difficult circumstances of their life. I hope you enjoy our podcast. All right, the Vince Project continues. We're here in the middle of June. We have no more lights. And I just want to highlight my nose for anybody that sees it on YouTube. I took my uncle's 7mm right off the snout when we were at the range. It's not the first time I've broken my nose. I definitely played ice hockey as a kid up through college. Been in a skirmish or two out in the world. It pops back in and out of place. It has like some cartilage loose and it cranks. But I gave this trigger squeeze probably like 4 or 5 pounds of pressure when I needed one and a half, whatever it was. Beautiful weapon. And my uncle, it's quality time. I like spending time with my family and closest friends. And it's a little bit of what this podcast is about. And I'll have a short one. I'll be brief. But the topic for the day is direction of travel. And on the flight down, I sit down, I have my little routine or ritual for travel and got everything I need. And, I look up and on the screen, there's a little bit of map and you have options for entertainment, whatever. And just kind of looking at the map and they show the topography and a little bit of a compass and you're kind of, you're tracking along, like what's happening. And for me, the first question that came to mind, and I journaled about this on the flight, is like, what's been more important in my lifetime? Is it measuring the time or is it the direction of travel? And man, time has no replays is built into our principles and our value sets that drive H-hour and all things Vince Project. And I think that me and Mary are about those things. And the idea that time has no replays, it's principle number 2. And then I still dance with those things. And I find that those heady little topics to roll over in the mind, conversations about and explore and examine, keep me safe and kind of give me parameters to play. But back to direction of travel, the compass is documented as being invented before any sort of clock or watch or measurement of time. Right. And I don't know if that's inherently true from a philosophical perspective or an actual practical application of how time is measured. I don't know. I'm not an expert in that, but I can understand that. I think direction of travel matters a lot. Not so much if you make it there, get there, do what you want to do, but it's, are you becoming who you need to become on your journey in that direction of travel? And are you developing the requisite skill sets when you deal with the obstacles and barriers that you may encounter when you're out there? And I think what's kind of cool to tie in a little bit of off the subject is my buddy Bill and a student at some point, they gave me some gifts. One was a compass, traditional military lensatic compass, and good memories, right? It's symbolic, and the other one was a nautical compass, and they sit on the bookshelf behind me, and I think about that as direction of travel for my purposes throughout my life, where I strayed or wandered from what I knew was right or virtuous or best. It's because I wasn't checking in on the basics in terms of reading the map, kind of assessing and evaluating the direction. What are some of the barriers, the obstacles, the terrain, the elevation, and am I reading the ridge lines correctly, bodies of water, and then unforeseen things that are going to come up on the route, right? And that's metaphorical for life, but I think there's something to that. So anyway, my uncle, I'm down in Florida spending the time, and it's just beautiful, man. It's just beautiful weekend, and we're just chatting all things, and somehow it comes up about his experience in Vietnam with the 173rd, and I'm chatting, talking. He's like talking about when he was on point a few times, how he saw like tiger prints, monkeys, crazy sunsets, sunrises, being laid in for an ambush in the Central Highlands, and lizards are crawling over them. But they know like a company of NVA is fast, moving fast on the rat lines, and how the terrain was a beautiful, like spectacular, stunning backdrop of it. And I think I have good memories like that of Afghanistan in some ways. Like there was some terrain in Kunar province that was like that, but like they could just get their stuff together. And maybe just an amazing hiking destination, or maybe even skiing, like way up in the mountains. But they're a long way away from that. And the one thing my uncle and I were talking about is like direction of travel for mankind, civilization, society, and people. And him and I are just celebrating how the UFC is now fighting in front of the White House, and President Trump is using the military to guide it and lead it. And he's doing these demonstrations of, here's these folks marching in precision, and Marine Corps. Here's some combatives folks demonstrating and rolling and getting after it. And I think it's just cool. And it's a good thing. It's away from some of the degeneracy and deviant behavior that's been presented to us as normal behavior. And in my estimation, it's quite the opposite. That is some social deviant stuff that's been introduced, and the left tries to do that. But that's a little bit of a tangent. My uncle and I were talking about direction of travel in terms of land navigation and how you sort through and you make decisions based on where you think you're going and then what happens when you get there. River crossings, open areas, rice paddies, dirt roads, right? Poppy fields in Afghanistan, right? Like folks get sensitive when you mess with their poppy field, right? They don't even care if you're there, who and what goes there. They're just there about that action. If someone threatens the crop because it's about resources, Taliban, American, it doesn't matter to them. They don't mess with their drugs. But the Viet Cong and the NVA had elements that were consistent with the behaviors and presentation of Al Qaeda, ISIL, ISIS, the Taliban, especially those hardcore parts of the Taliban. And we just agreed that there's some bad people in the world at times, and somehow we veer from the appropriate direction of travel based on this misinformation that happens. Because people are talking about it when they're climbing the Brooklyn Bridge or protesting in your local town, and they're not actually privy to what goes on in the ground and how he always claims, he's like, hey, we were the 173rd, man, the herd, like we were the professional infantryman, right? And he's very proud of that. And he's like, I never saw anything heinous or malevolent or cruel. I saw some vicious and barbaric things. I was a part of all of that, right? Like I was in an infantry platoon. I was a squad leader, right? He's like, that's part of it, and I would say on my end as a service support being attached to all these elements, I never saw anything heinous, whether it was special operations folks or the infantry or myself. Like, and the folks that did heinous things and criminal things, they went to jail. They went to jail back then too, but the media fails to tell that story. So what was the direction of travel, man? And I just want to share it's in relation to the Army's birthday. Is like, man, the American warfighter is still the gold standard. Technology, no technology, drones, no drones, pitchfork shovels. The American warfighter is the gold standard in terms of excellence and behavior. And that's just a bias I have. It's a bias I get to have, and celebrate the Army's birthday. Yeah, direction of travel, so cool. But a little bit of segue, right? And I'm processing the SpaceX IPO and thinking about some of the nonsense that gets propagated to our children, our families, that nobody should be a trillionaire. That's just stupid. That's stupid. That's idiotic. It's short-sighted. It's inhumane to tell a child that. It's inhumane to be like, hey, you don't want to be a trillionaire. You don't want to be a billionaire. That sucks. I'm not a billionaire, but I would think like there's some advantages that a billionaire or a trillionaire might experience. And I would like to think if they're doing it the right way with some level of decency, like a smidge of it, the world rewards that particular person because they create so much massive value for other people. Think about it. Whoever works with Elon and bets on Elon sticks with him, from the cafeteria to the guys that do the lawn, that maintain the maintenance, that run the operations, the budget, the HR. Everybody gets rich. Like, what a good deal. What a good deal. Everybody gets rich. And I think that's a good world to live in. And that's what I want to espouse and encourage my children to think about, is that the more value you bring to other people, the more you're rewarded. And sometimes it's monetary and sometimes it's not. And I think that's assuming good intent. But if you bring a valuable product to your community, enter your town or nation or world, and you're diligent and stay the course, you can be rewarded for that stuff. And I think that's all hinges upon direction of travel, not time necessarily or speed in getting there. You want to be urgent but not rushed in your decision making, and especially the execution of the thing. You got to test it against the market. And I think Elon is the greatest entrepreneur in our recent history, and he's evidence of that. Pretty amazing. Awesome. All right. Cheers. Have a good day.